When I was a kid, my parents worked in Japan and took the family along, of course. So we lived there for a few years, and I think as a little kid I was almost oblivious to the fact that we lived in a different country. I thought everybody had the same experience. And recently I was kicking over old times, a bit of nostalgic rethinking, and the question was asked amongst the other people in my family, what do you remember most about Japan? Other than, geographical features and things. And I said, what I remember is playing games of Menkos. And nobody else in the family remembered that, but I was the only one in the right age group to have participated. So I thought I would do a quick video about this. This was something that was passed down from one kid to another in the U.S. Armed Forces dependents community. As new kids would come in, they'd be taught by the kids who were there or ready to depart. And I don't think we actually bought that many Menkos because they were mostly passed down kid to kid. So I thought that I would recreate that a little bit here, revisit it. I didn't have any Menkos anymore, so I did a quick eBay purchase from a seller in Japan. Typical glitter-filled plastic box, something you don't see that much of outside of Japan. And these are all set up as collector items here, so they're all in individual plastic bags. But this is a typical Menko. That's M-E-N-K-O. Apparently these are also known as baton or pachin. I don't recall ever hearing those names. It's a Japanese card game, and you have to have at least two people to play, although you can have quite a few. Kids would gather around in a small circle, and this was almost always played on the ground, on a sidewalk or something. You couldn't play it in the grass. It had to be a hard surface, but preferably a rough one like a sidewalk or something of that sort. And you'd gather around, and it could be like a game of jacks or tiddlywinks or any of these other games that kids would play like this. But the playing piece is these Menko cards. Now they come in somewhat different sizes and shapes. Some of them are even round, but the ones I remember were all rectangular. These are what I would have called the small Menkos. They also came perhaps half again as tall and wide. And you could get them in different thicknesses. These are relatively thin ones. They also came, I don't know what they would have been, perhaps a 1/16 of an inch thick, heavier cardboard. I was really looking for something like that, but I couldn't find any when I went searching on eBay. The Menko card is sort of multi-purpose, so it could be used as a collector card, like kids would use baseball cards and try to collect the whole set. And so they often had some sort of cartoon character on one side. These things actually went quite far back, back to the Edo period of Japan. And originally, my understanding is that the playing pieces were made out of clay at that time, and then they might have made out of engraved wood at one point. But for a long time they've been cardboard. And so over the years the types of cartoon characters that would appear might change. At one point they might have samurai warriors or other characters from history or culture. This particular set is a Batman set, so all of the cards I have here feature Batman type characters. And then on the other side they would often have things from other sports, like this is baseball. Japanese are really into the baseball game, so it's not surprising these have baseball symbols and characteristics. Then there would be some other symbology. I have no idea what this open hand means. Maybe it's supposed to be the number 5, maybe it has another significance. And then there'd be numbers, and so these could be used in various different ways. I even remember having some that had, up in the corners, just small symbols like regular playing cards with hearts and diamonds and spades and so on. So you could almost use them as a surrogate for regular playing cards. I recall having some that had little patterns of dots like dominoes. So perhaps you could use them in that way. So again, I don't know the significance on this particular set of the numbers. But this set is in very good condition. It doesn't seem to have been used very heavily. The main theme of Menko, as I recall, and I checked online, found a Wikipedia article and a couple other sources. There's a couple videos on YouTube showing kids in Japan trying to learn to play it. And it really seems that, other than the secondary and tertiary uses of the cards, their main use in the game of Menko is to do a simple flipping of the cards. So you would grab a card, supporting it with your fingers and maybe one finger underneath, and then you would fling it down with as much force as you could. And these being thin and lightweight, they don't make much of a puff, but the idea is adjacent cards could possibly be flipped over by the gust of wind created by another card slamming down next to it. And if you flipped somebody else's card, then you owned that card. And really, the simple rules, which were good even for young children, you were just trying to accumulate as many cards by the end of the game as possible. It wasn't really any more complicated than that. But because of the simple rules and no special, physical size or capability of the players, smaller kids could play with older kids, and it was really a level playing field. So, as I already mentioned, the pictures could reflect the culture of the time. According to the Wikipedia article, and this is outside my own knowledge, but according to that article, you might have ninjas or samurai characters. Before World War II, there were military images, fighter planes, battleships, and so on. Maybe some tanks and so on. And after the war, it went towards characters from anime and other cartoon styles. And the Wikipedia article mentions that people do use them just for the baseball characteristics on the back of the card. So these are from the 60s. That's when I lived in Japan, was in the... I don't remember exactly what year we went there. Maybe it was around 63, and was there probably till about 66, just a few years. And I wish I had my old Menko set, but for all I know, I gave them away, or my mother may have given them away to somebody else. They just weren't valued. I'll tell another story about these. We lived in a American housing area called Kantomura, which is now long gone. The whole area has been completely razed and built up with industrial stuff and sports complexes and so on. But we were way up. It was sort of a wider at the south end and pretty narrow at the north end, and we lived up at the north end. And there was a gate manned by an elderly Japanese security guard on behalf of the U.S. military. And just outside of that was a quiet little street with small shops, and we used to go and get lunch from what we called soba. It's what you'd call ramen noodles now. They always had some cooking, and we'd just walk across with our allowance money and buy bowls of noodles. They also had a couple of stores with candy and toys, cheap toys that kids could buy. And they also sold Menkos. So I do have some memory of going outside and restocking my larder of Menkos, especially if I'd lose some in a game recently. So, you know, here's a bunch of Menko cards lined up, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to even come close to flipping any. Flip the one I threw, of course. I mean, you could, there's a guy on YouTube and he throws several hundred times and he can't flip anything. I'm thinking these aren't the greatest choices here. I think the heavier ones play better in that regard, but at least if Wikipedia can be believed, that is the only regular playing mode of these, so even these thin ones are supposed to be useful in that way. And I suspect that's why it works better to play these on a rougher surface. There's more chance for the cards to be up on edge a little bit and more receptive to little puffs of air from adjacent cards slamming down. You know, maybe if we got, let's see if I can arrange it. Well, I'm not going to sit here all day slamming cards down, but I'll just give you a quick overview of the fronts of these particular cards. Again, it's a Batman set, and it seems to be styled after the TV show Batman. The style of the costumes seems to match that. So here's the rear side. We have two which are baseball themed, and they have the 5 fingers out. They there's also 4 of them here that have space figures. 2 of them are actually spaceships taking off, and 2 are just astronauts walking around on some other planet. But they also have the hand symbols. 5 fingers out, but then they also have a fist. And I vaguely remember that the way we decided how to start each game of Menko was by doing rock, paper, scissors with our fists. So maybe that has something to do with this. Beats me. I don't know what the Japanese characters along the top mean. The significance of the numbers again. These two have exactly the same number. They're not exactly serial numbered, are they? 45, 27, 351. 2 different images, same number. Here's a image I found of another Menko card on just by a Google search. And this one has some of the things I was talking about. In the upper left-hand corner is the image of a playing card of the European and US, North American variety, and then something that's obviously representative of some other game. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Then there's a spaceship thing, there's the hand, you know, there's the numbers, there's a number in a circle. It looks like, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least 7 things, maybe 8, 9, or 10 different things going on there. Different ways these cards can be used. Here's something else. It's got a perforated edge. I don't know if it's strictly a Menko card or something else, but it does have some similarity in that it has all these different symbols for different types of games, and then the obligatory science fiction element in the middle. But the hand, the playing cards, this other game, a big long number, a number in a circle. On the website that has this image, it does mention that rock, paper, and scissors game symbols are included, so my guess is that's what the hand is. And then there's the one with the fist, which would be the rock. So you've got the paper, you've got the rock. Those are demonstrated by the cards I own. I don't have any that show the scissors, but apparently that's something that they can represent. The same website identifies some of the numbers as fighting numbers, where it's just a matter of trying to outnumber your opponent's card or cards, and the number could be used in its entirety, Or you could say, well, we're just using the third number from the right and just pick on a certain digit. Maybe this is a fighting number as well. Beats me. I did try using my smartphone with Google's Translate program, trying to see if it would translate any of these characters, and all it did is the numbers. It made no sense of this up here. Anyway, I hope you found this to be at least a little bit interesting.